The Epson D1070, the printer that I have a huge love-hate relationship with. Fortunately, currently and for the last few months, it's been a love relationship. I've had this printer now for over 2 years, close to 2.5 years. And of all my videos, I get more questions about this printer that I haven't covered in videos. So I thought I would spend a video and go through it and answer some of the questions and I'll give you some suggestions to help it run properly. So first of all, let's get into it. Thing I tell everybody, this printer is not for everybody. It's a high volume printer that needs to be run on a regular basis and you need to run a lot of prints through it. So that's the first thing. If you're looking for a consumer printer, if you're looking for a low volume printer, don't get this printer. Say it in every video, say it in this video. All right, so what do I think of it overall? Overall, rate this minute, rate this second. If I was to rate this printer, I would give it probably an 8.5 out of 10. It's running really well. I haven't had any issues since, well, late last year, just before Christmas, obviously, when it's the worst time in the world for it to do anything. It's been running pretty good. It has a few small issues, and I'll address them in the video in a little bit here, so stay tuned and watch for that. Do I recommend this for a volume business, whether it be a photo lab that you're printing for other people, or whether it be your photo studio, or whether you're a nature wildlife photographer and you want to do a lot of prints yourself? Yes, it works well. It has a lot of benefits. It's a great quality printer. The cost per print is quite low. There's a lot of things with it that I would recommend. And if it runs, when it runs like a tank and it runs really well. But it has some issues to watch out for. So watch that. Have I tried other paper in it? No. The paper that I currently use is the Luster. I use the 6-inch, the 5-inch, and the 8-inch paper. Had to think about that for a second. I've been looking for some 4-inch, but Epson currently does not offer it. I have not tried their double-sided paper. I have not tried their cardstock. I have tried my own cardstock. I have tried single-cut sheets in it. Again, I'll address that in a little bit here. How does it work for the roll paper? It's wonderful. You're not loading individual sheets. You're not carrying thousands of sheets of paper. You're carrying a few rolls of paper. It works wonderful. I love that function and feature for it. How does it work sending it from your computer? It works great. I've not had any issues whatsoever with that. Do watch when you're installing the driver to make sure that you're putting the Epson driver in there. It may put a generic driver in when you're installing it. Don't do that because you don't get the functionality, you don't get a lot of the features, and it doesn't seem to work near as fast. Perfect example, this replacement printer that I currently have sitting back here, well, it's not a replacement, it's mine now, but it was a replacement last December. When I installed it, I sent one print job to it and it took over 30 seconds to get to it. As soon as I did it, I realized what the problem was. I went back and deleted the driver, made sure that it went to an Epson driver. As soon as it went to the Epson driver, it worked wonderful. So make sure when you're installing it that you do it that way. I have run it both on USB and I've run it on my network. I have not done it through the wireless, so I can't answer any questions with that. As far as USB, as far as the network, it works great. It works wonderful. Print time is quite reasonable for sending from the printer. Big drawback, I didn't address this in any of the stuff that I've done in the future here, but one of the big drawbacks to it is if you're sending a job to the printer of one print and you got 500 copies and something should happen that it's wrong, you did the wrong image, there's something being cropped off, you can go back and you can cancel that print job. If you send a print job to that printer that contains 500 individual files, so it sends one, sends another, sends another, sends another, it's almost impossible to cancel that. I've talked to Epson about it, asked for a firmware update, and they just sort of went, we don't know what you're talking about, sorry. So if you send it back there and for some reason it starts leaving marks on the prints, for some reason the head is clogged, for any reason whatsoever, and you need to cancel the print job, yeah, it's not going to be good. So I strongly recommend that if you're sending a job with, let's say, 500 images, break it down into batches of 50 or 100 and send 50, let it print those, make sure that it's working fine, send the next 50 or even send 100. I wouldn't recommend sending 500 because you'll waste a ton of paper. So watch that. As far as how well it's built and everything, again, I addressed this in the little bit here when I do some outtake videos, but you'll see that it's pretty well built, but it has a few issues. Treat it with respect. I don't know if I would transport this on location and to back and on location and back. If I did that, I think I would maybe have a cabinet built for it. I don't think it would stand up to being carried and bounced and banged around, so watch for that as well. You can run multiples of these. I've done that. I had actually 3 of them running at one time here because they had sent me replacement ones and we were trying to get one to actually work properly. I had 3 of them running. I had 2 on a network and 1 on a USB just because that's the way it ended up being plugged in. And it worked really well. I could send a job to the 6-inch printer, a job to the 5-inch printer, a job to the 8-inch printer, another one to the 6, another one to the 8, another one to the 5. It works wonderful. So you don't need to get a bigger or a faster printer. You can just get multiples of this one. And I would recommend, if you're running a business, that you do have a way of backing these up for, well, another printer, whether it be a consumer grade printer or whether it be another one of the Epson D1070s, that you get it so that if you have problems with one, you have something that you can keep producing on. I'm currently considering buying a second one. I will buy one with the duplex attachment. I do not currently have one with that because I've heard some horror stories about it and I'm waiting for them to work some of the bugs out of it. But I have other printers that I can use if this one does go down. They're not as fast, it's not as cost effective, but I can use it. Now, the biggest elephant in the room, the biggest problem with this printer is Epson support sucks big time. On your larger printers, if you have a problem, Epson will send a tech down and they will fix the printer for you. On the smaller printers, if you have a problem, you phone Epson, you tell them about your problem, and their suggestion will be, we'll send you a new printer. I have phoned them to ask a simple question about the firmware, if they've upgraded the firmware recently or what the new firmware included, and they sent me a new printer. I didn't want a new printer. I had a question on the firmware. Their customer service is horrible, absolutely pathetic. Epson, you need to check into this because this is the worst thing about this printer. The other issue that I had with this last exchange, and it frustrated me to no end, I have the extended warranty on this printer, and I recommend getting the extended warranty on this printer and extending it every year you can. And when you run out of the extended warranty, buy a new printer because Epson does not have support for it, coverage for it, or anything like that. And you are going to need replacement printers or repairs to it, which they don't do. They just take it back. So get the extended warranty. But I called Epson. I was having a problem. What does the girl say to me? She says, "Oh, I see you've had this exchange several times." I said, "Yes." "Oh, I don't think we can exchange it again." "Excuse me? I have the extended warranty." "Yeah, but you've already had it exchanged 8 times. "Yes, because it's a piece of garbage." At the same time, the same lady says, "I'm going to have to read all the notes." I says, "There's hundreds of pages of notes for what I've gone through." I says, "None of them apply. This is a new printer." "Oh, I'm sorry." She put me on hold. It was over 20 minutes that she read the notes. Finally, when she came back, I lost it. I told her that I wanted to escalate it to somebody else. I says, "You've just wasted 20 minutes of my time." I said, "I want to escalate it." She says, "Well, I can try to escalate it." I said, "No, you're not going to try. You will." She finally did escalate it so I could ask the question that I had because it was only a question at the time. I was having trouble. I wanted to know if the new printers or the new firmware or the new repairs or the whatever it is had this fixed. They escalated it to somebody. He answered my question with, "Well, sorry, I can't tell you if it's been fixed or repaired. I don't know." And I gave up at that time. About 2, maybe 3 weeks later, I phoned them and I did get them to send me a replacement unit because I just lost it. I just couldn't keep dealing with it. So Epson, get your act together for your service, for your warranty for this printer. If it's a problem printer and we know there's problems with it, a lot of people are saying the exact same thing that I'm saying, then just bite the bullet and either fix it or just be happy to send out a replacement unit, but get some customer support. Okay, that rant's over with. So let's get into some of the stuff that I like and I dislike about it. And, well, hopefully this will answer some of your questions. We'll talk to you soon. One of the issues that I've found with the D1070 is the following. When you hit rewind, especially at the end of the night, and it rewinds the paper for you, many times what will happen is the paper will not completely rewind. What it will do is it'll sit in here, and the problem with that happening is that it curls, and it curls just a little bit. And if you leave it sit in there all night, it gets really curled, and when you go to load it in the morning, it doesn't load properly or at all. And in fact, I had to return one printer because once it curled one night on the 8-inch paper, I could not load 8-inch paper again. I think what happened was that some of the guides down in here actually got bent a little bit because of the paper, and it would not load that paper again. And it was a real pain. I had to send the printer back. I could load 5-inch, I could load 6-inch, but I could not load 8-inch paper. So when you're rewinding your paper at the end of the night, make sure you go in, make sure that you rewind the paper all the way, make sure it's out of there completely, then close it up, put it together, and away you go from there. Another issue that I have found, and this just started happening recently, and that is this little plastic piece that's supposed to capture the paper when it comes off the printer is broken. It's got a little tiny plastic pieces in there. And when I first looked at it, when I first saw it, when I bought this printer, I thought, wonder how long that's going to last for. Well, let me tell you, it didn't last very long. Now, is it life or death? No, it's not life or death. It's just really annoying. Again, something that could have been better designed by Epson, but it wasn't. Now, people ask me about the ink. How good is the ink? How expensive is the ink? Is the ink affordable? Is the ink, does it use a lot of it? All of these questions. Well, let me say, as far as for the ink on this machine, well, I've got a lot of it, mainly because of all the replacements that I've had, but I really do like the ink on this machine. I like the cost of it. I like the way that it is in packages and not in little cartridges. I like how much is in there. And the cost actually, to me, is not that bad. So for the ink, I think the ink is actually one of the benefits of this machine. So that's not something that I would ever complain about, at least at this point, unless they crank the ink prices way up. Cost of photo paper, another question I get asked often. It's actually not that bad. It's not cheap. It's not free by any means, but being the rolls, it's actually much more affordable than doing the sheets. And for me, it's actually financially viable to do it this way. I was able to cut some of my prices down, and I'm able to compete with some of the bigger competitors out there. So I like the cost of the paper. Again, I would always like it to be less, but it is what it is. Loading paper. Loading paper is enjoyable when it's the rolls. You take your paper, you put it in here, you bring down your guides so that they fit properly. Once you hear a little beep, you push it in, you close the cover, you put it like that, and you are done. It loads the paper. As far as loading failures, the only one that I had that really had a bad failure rate was the one that had the bent 8-inch paper in there for overnight that for some reason pushed a guide out of place or something. But loading paper has not been an issue. A pet peeve with it is when you load the paper, it comes up to this screen that says, register your paper. When you're in a hurry, this is annoying. I wish you could just set one paper type and be done with it. But you have to come in and you have to hit OK after loading your paper so that it will accept that paper type. I really wish that could be fixed. It may be somewhere in the menu. I've not been able to find it. So when you load your paper, when you start your machine up in the morning, I strongly recommend going in, hitting OK on settings, go through to maintenance, go to print, hit nozzle check, print and nozzle check. This will take a little bit more paper, it'll use a little bit more ink, but it is a great way of making sure that your printer is working before you start production. Also, if you do large volumes, and I'm talking 2, 4, 800 sheets in an order, I recommend doing a nozzle check after you do that. Why? Because it just makes sure that your nozzles are clear. And there it is. There's your nozzle check. That's what it looks like when it's good. Most days, if you run it every single day, most days the nozzle check will be fine. If you leave it for 2, maybe 3, 4 days, you may end up with a clogged nozzle, but it's been good for nozzle cleanliness, for nozzle clearness, for not clogging. So I don't have an issue with that. Printing single sheets has to be the most annoying thing that this printer has. Your computer, you send the job, has to get to a point on the screen where it tells you the paper is out. You then take the cover at the back and open it. You put your paper in, you hit OK, and then it will think about it, and then it pulls the paper through and starts printing it. I really wish that would have been done differently. There could have been so many ways that was improved upon. I know there's a duplex unit, but I've heard so many horror stories with it, I haven't invested in one. The other issue I have with the single sheet feeding is I'm getting a lot of marks on the single sheets when I feed them. I don't know why it is, but I know if I phone Epson, their solution is going to be, let's just replace the printer. So I figured I'll wait as long as I can and then phone them, and hopefully that problem will be solved. It is fast to print it. It's just annoying that you have to drop single sheets every time. And it's also really annoying when you get marks on the prints, because you're wasting a lot of paper. This one actually came out perfectly, as you can see there. Let me just see if I can get it in closer to the camera here. This one came out looking really good. So it does work, but it is the marks that I've been getting on it, and it's actually how slow it is for it to do it that has been the biggest problem. So that covers off some of my likes, some of my dislikes, some of the stuff that you can do to solve your problems, what I think about this printer. I hope that helps. If you have questions, feel free to put them down below. I will try to answer them. I hope this video has answered a lot of the questions, though, because I get tired of answering the same ones over and over again. But hey, like I say, it's a love-hate relationship. Right now, I love it. Maybe by the next video, I won't love it so much. But if you have a business need like mine, I think it's a great printer to get. So, talk to you next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye now.